Welcome to another episode of Are You Mad at Me? I'm Vicki Morgan.
I'm Josh Morgan, and we're here.
Yeah, welcome.
We're doing it.
If this is the first podcast you've ever listened to in your entire life, here's how it works. We're going to talk, and we're going to make stuff up. We're going to be like, yeah, we got some reader feedback, listener feedback. We're going to talk about awards we won that aren't...
This is just our general
merriment. Yeah. So this is, we've been doing this now over a year, I guess. We got a whole year, and then we took a little break, and then we're back. And I think this is like episode 6 or 7 of the new season.
Season 2, episode 7.
Lovely. So thanks to Josh Morgan for doing all the audio editing and mixing and mastering of, and then he uploads the podcast to, where's the podcast available?
So, okay, that's a good thing to talk about because we're based on YouTube and Spotify. That's like our main 2 places where
that's where you actually have to input information. And,
I put an episode on Spotify. I put an episode on YouTube, and then we have.
It's okay.
I'm just saying the word. Henry, we're doing a podcast.
You got to leave that in. That's so great. That's so real. Please leave that in.
That'd be way too loud.
No, we'll modulate it.
Our kids are upstairs. We told them we were coming to do a podcast, and they are just talking loud to each other. They're being nice. They're being happy. They're not arguing or fighting or anything.
They're just having fun.
They're just
this
being
is our
loud.
life every day.
Yeah. Okay, so we are on Spotify and YouTube. When I put it onto Spotify, there's an RSS feed that sends it out to iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and there's another one. Amazon? I think Amazon.
Audible, yeah.
Yeah, Audible. Yeah. So you can hear us on all the places that people usually get their podcasts, but that's where we...
There's other places. Someone asked me about Podbean one time.
Podbean, I feel like, is that one of the... I don't even.
Okay,
we don't know anything about that.
Just so that
I think that's the thing you pay for, and we do all of our stuff is free.
Yeah, for the most part, except for Spotify. You got to have a membership.
Spotify's free.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
You can have a Spotify premium. I don't know how. I've never listened to podcasts on Spotify without the premium membership.
Right. What about Apple?
I don't know, and I don't care because Apple's the worst.
Oh, that's not... Well, that just cut out a whole population of people that are going to sponsor us.
I'm kidding.
If you use Apple products, please let us know if you listen on Apple on iTunes.
I know Brian does. Our friend Brian Cole, and I'm pretty sure Blaine Clements uses Apple products too. So we have people that have been on the podcast or leave us comments or weekly let us know that they're listening that use Apple products. Let us know
if you listen to it on iTunes and if it's free.
I'm sorry I insulted Apple, your Lord and High Majesty.
I don't like apples. I don't even like apples. Not yours.
I mean the people that are listening.
I don't even like apples. Can you put that clip in from that movie? How do you like them? Oh,
I thought you were going to say Forrest Gump.
Is it from it?
No, because Forrest, when he got
Good Will Hunting,
he got Lieutenant Dan invested him in some fruit company. Now I don't have to worry about...
You're listening to our love language. This is how we communicate. And I realized I was laying in bed last night and I was like, that's how I explain everything. It's always like when I'm comfortable, I'll say, it's like that thing where, and I'll mention a movie and I'll explain the whole scene in the movie instead of just talking about my own feelings or explaining the thing. I don't know if I'm talking down to people or if I just think you'll never get it if I'm talking in my terms. So here's a movie you might have seen. Yeah. Maybe you understood that, you big dummy.
We saw a really good clip of Bill Burr talking on some podcast about how he has been overcoming his anger problem. And when he started acting, he started realizing that his characters have feelings and a range of emotions more than just anger or sarcasm, basically. And when he was letting these feelings out through his characters, it was like, oh, I also have all these emotions and other ways to let out my feelings and my, what I want to say. And he was saying that's how he got over, that's how he is getting over his anger issues, is having all this arsenal of emotions that he can tap into and access. So, yes, that ties in because we're using other characters.
Josh just explained what I meant by using a reference from something else we saw, and it's just I think it's a teacher. I think that's a teacher thing. It's you don't understand, so let's start from the very beginning. Where did I lose you? And let's go back and explain.
I feel like I've been hearing from the boys a lot that anytime we're talking about anything ever, I have a story about something that I saw or I did or somebody I know did or whatever. And they're like, you have a story for everything. Yeah. I'm like, well, that's just how
people talk.
I relate what I'm thinking by something else that happened in the past.
Yeah. It is nice to have references to be able to explain things. And it does make things a little bit easier. Yeah. I had a train of thought there and I completely
Sorry,
disappeared.
we were talking about where our podcast is located and where people can hear us, which is YouTube. Are You Mad at Me? Spotify. Just search for Are You Mad at Me? I think there's another Are You Mad at Me podcast, but it's not.
There's a book. There's a brand new book out. Someone wrote.
No, I just mean when
and
you're
I reached out and
podcasts.
asked them to be on the podcast, and I think they're mad at me because they didn't respond. So that's fine. But okay, so here's the thing. This week I'm a little bit mad at myself because I didn't do the calendar. However,
the social media calendar.
The social media calendar, I had this great plan that I was going to write things down and put 30 days of things that I was going to do, and I still haven't gotten around to it. But what I did do, and this is why I get exhausted with marketing and promotion, is it's not consistent. So I had an idea, I shot it, and I posted it, and you did the same thing on a different platform for a different project, and so you're looking at it and you're not seeing. The downside is you're not going to see your consistent results. You're not going to see like, okay, so Mondays are really good days for posting. So you're not going to be able to get that feedback. Okay, this was successful. This one didn't do so well. So you're not getting any actual information.
You mean if you're not doing something every day?
If it's not structured, if you're not keeping track, at the very least, write down what you did. So maybe you can do your list after the fact and say, okay, and that's actually, that's a good idea. I'm going to write down what I did. And so I'll put it here first. Like we were out on Mother's Day. No, we were out on Saturday. Of course, Mother's Day was this past weekend. And we were at the mall for some reason, and we were walking past the bookstore. We were on our way to get the bus, and we went into the bookstore, and I told Josh what I wanted to shoot, and he held my phone, and I shot a video of holding up For the Grace of Joe in the middle of the Kohl's bookstore, because they're available here locally in Kohl's and Chapters, and on their Indigo website, and on a bunch of other places. But I did a video of this weekend sucks. If you're having a tough time, maybe this book will help. And it made me cringe, and I posted it anyway. And then the next day, I posted a video so that went to my Vicky Morgan author page. And the next day, I posted a video from Feast of Cohen, where you were so gracious to come out and tape the performance. And I introduced the song, and I say, I'm going to do this song for my mom, who we lost a couple of months ago. And she would be really proud of me for being here with this band. And it was a really nice clip. And so I posted that on the Mulberry Creek page. And not just on Facebook, but I put it on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. And it did well. It had like 600 or 700 views on all the different platforms, on each platform. But I didn't plan it and put it in the calendar and then shoot it. It was more of like I got an idea right now. It was a spur of the moment
thing. Yeah. Let's do it right now.
And so I'm trying to figure out what my modus operandi is, which is a very fancy way of saying how I work.
How do you do things?
Yeah. And I would love to be more consistent so that I can actually see what's working, because sometimes something will go really well and then the next post is a bust and it's no views, and then I'm devastated. So I think for my own mental health and well-being, I think having some sort of list that I've completed or a list that I'm going to complete, just to have it kind of structured like that.
Yeah.
And also just to kill two birds with one stone. Excuse me. I don't know why we're killing birds, but let's not kill any birds. Let's
leave the birds where they are.
Pet some birds. Ooh, yikes. Take that out. I think sometimes when we do the podcast, it's a good idea, because we're sitting here and we have microphones and we have the visual and the audio. I think it's a good idea to maybe shoot some promos or ads while we're doing the podcast, just to give people an idea, because maybe so just to go back again, the idea that I had was, for one thing, was to go promote the book in the bookstore, because I was able to tag Kohl's and Chapters and Indigo, and it showed the cover of the book and it showed me with it, and it was a real moment of this Mother's Day is a terrible weekend for so many people for so many different reasons. Like, in no particular order, if you've lost a baby, if you're having trouble with infertility, if you've had a miscarriage, if you've lost your mom, if you've lost any kind of a mother figure, Mother's Day sucks. And so one of my problems that I had when my mom was still around was the cards never said what I wanted to say to my mom. They were always like these flowery things, and like it just never quite. So it was always, even when she was here, I had trouble with Mother's Day. So this weekend, I went and shot from the heart and said, this is probably a bad weekend. And of course, I ran into my friend Tanya, and we were like, just couldn't figure out why we were so emotional. And she said, Vicky, it's Mother's Day. It's Mother's Day weekend. I was like, So I went directly into the mall and shot that video, and Josh did he had to fix the audio for me. Because I kind of whispered.
Well, the store, I forgot words. It was loud.
Okay?
It was loud in the store. The sound.
It was.
There was no.
And I was trying to shoot it like intimately, like, this is just a moment between me and you, and with the background noise. But Josh was able to fix it somehow. I don't know, through the magic of whatever he did, his little thing there, and it sounded way better. And we put captions over it. So that was one idea. The other idea that I had that we ended up in a dollar store at a different point in the weekend.
I just will say, if you're doing stuff like that in public where there's a lot of people around and there's traffic noise or there's people around, or you're in a bar or a store where there's lots of people, like that's where you see people on social media with a little external microphone.
Yeah.
Like everybody can.
Which I think looks ridiculous.
Not everybody can afford that.
I do not like those little tiny microphones. They're ridiculous.
But it isolates your audio from everybody else.
Or you can just not be so shy and cringy and just say, hey, I'm hearing blah, blah, blah. And just because it creates a witness-rich environment.
That's true. And people will be like, ooh, there's a social media person there.
And there's maybe a couple of people our own age who'll be like, what a loser, posting on Facebook or posting on social media. But most of the people around you are going to go, ooh, I wonder what she's talking about. I wonder what her handle is. So it kind of, that's...
We do live in the city, and we do see social media...
stuff being shot.
People around a lot. Like...
Yeah. Jimmy Lee Stokes.
Yeah.
Check him out.
I see him at the mall.
He's a piece for Daisy guy.
Every fourth time we're at the mall.
That Daisy passed away, but he does these videos where he makes
cooking
videos, and he would give a piece to his dog who was named Daisy, and she has since passed away. But we see him friggin' everywhere, and he's got partnerships now from a TikTok channel. So the other idea that I had was I took 17 seconds of the display of cards at the dollar store. So it was like Mother's Day, and it had all these different women you could give a Mother's Day card to. I don't know if there's cards for trans people. So if you know about that, please let us know if there's actually cards for people who are transgender, who are in motherly parenting sort of maternal roles.
Non-binary cards.
Or non-binary cards. That's
like happy parents.
Business idea right there.
There is a Mother's Day and a Father's Day, and not like a non-binary parent day. That's interesting.
So you'd have to pick one, which is kind of part of the problem with the whole gender spectrum, is that the idea
this or that, and that's
that you have to be one or the other kind of creates this idea that you have to identify, and if you don't identify here, then you must be this other thing, and that's kind of... We haven't really raised our family like that.
Problematic, yeah.
Yeah, it is problematic. So, so the other idea was I took 17 seconds of footage of the cards, and I just put some text over the screen and put one of Mulberry Creek songs over it, and that was another piece of content. And I put that on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
That was the same outing, right? Wasn't that the same?
It might have been the same day. Yeah, we were waiting for a bus transfer. So, and the other one was a clip, of course, that has kind of been in my video bank for a while, and I decided to share it because I was just emotional and a mess this weekend. So anyway, so just a couple of ideas
from a performance at the hall, you mean?
Yes, from the Feast of Cohen. Yeah, that was from a couple of months back. But so that was a couple of content ideas that I had this weekend, and it was an idea to promote the book and promote Mulberry Creek songs and to just kind of connect with people that are following the pages to say Mother's Day kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And I would have loved to do something along the lines of the benefits of writing your story, because that's a very healing thing, and I couldn't quite figure out how to put that in because I was kind of emotional this weekend. But that would be my next idea. That would be number 4 on the list of things I'd like to. The next thing I'd like to work on would be maybe a workshop or maybe some sort of work along. And I don't know where to start. Like, that's an idea. It's a kernel. And I'd love to have like a group that meets every so often but I don't know if I could actually I don't know if I have the skills to prompt people to keep writing or to encourage them each week. Like, I feel like that's kind of a private thing that you go off and write your book, and then I can help you. Or I can help you in the beginning stages where you're wondering, should I write this book about my birth story or about my parents or about my childhood or about how I'm a gardener or whatever your thing is.
You're a good workshop facilitator and teacher, so I think that
I've never tried
I don't think that you would have any issue encouraging, but like,
well, I don't know how much you're supposed to write
people.
each week. Like, I don't know how long to give a person to write their book, because there's little tutorials out there where it's like, write a bestseller in a weekend.
Yeah, but you can lower the expectations of like, just write some this week.
So to put it in sales terms, I would need a deliverable. Like, what am I promising people they're going to have at the end of my class? And why should they pay me to... Okay. I mean, I get it. Like, the coaching part of it is important. The accountability, sharing with a group is really important. But that would be a thing I'd like to offer.
6-week workshop, you probably aren't going to write a novel, but...
I think you could, but it depends on if you have zero else in your life. If you don't have kids, if you don't have a job, if you don't have things that you need to binge watch, or, you know, whatever.
I got to finish Stranger Things. I don't have time to write this book. So it is,
but that is, I feel like that's the thing that I would like to do going forward, is to encourage people to, because I'm good at the beginning. I'm good at encouraging people to get a start, go buy a notebook and write in your journal every day, and buy a copy of The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Really great at the beginning. I think this is true for our relationship as well. I'm a good idea person, and then you do 90% of the work, and I'll come in at the end and put a little polish on it, and it looks like we collaborated and worked together. But I'm a good beginner, and I'm a very good polisher. Yes, I think.
If I'm going to toot my own horn. But that's not necessarily directly related to you teaching workshops and facilitating.
Well, I'm not sure where I could help. But
I think you'd be a good, encouraging, supportive.
I can tell you that I met somebody, ran into a friend of ours who's an executive director for an organization last week, and I thought that was about the coolest thing. So I would like to be an executive director of something at some point before We'll
make our own organization.
We could. Maybe I could be the executive director of Self Published NL.
There you go.
So content ideas.
Yeah.
Social media calendars, those sorts of things. Keep a track of what you're doing so that you can actually measure, and you can actually look back and go, on those days that you're like, ugh, I did nothing today. You can actually look back and go, actually, I did a whole bunch of stuff. And that kind of, I think for folks like myself who might be a little bit neurospicy, I think there's good, little tracking things that kind of keep you not just motivated, but inspired and encouraged and supported. And, unless you have a team around you that's telling you all those things all the time, that's great too. But if you're an indie artist, that stuff's important.
So speaking of indie artists, we are shifting gears a little bit more and kind of going into music mode. We have a couple shows coming up, which is exciting.
If you're lucky enough to be in St. John's, we are playing at the Multicultural Women's Association. The Multicultural Women's Organization of Newfoundland has a show going on up at the Amera Innovation Center.
On Signal Hill?
On Signal Hill.
Which is pretty fun.
And there's a bus going up there now. Route 29 goes right up to Signal Hill, up to the Amera Innovation Center. So we're playing at that. And then later that evening.
Same day. We got a show at Peter Easton Pub downtown. Or Center City. Is that
Center City?
Anyway. Peter Easton Pub in town with Weak Smile with Jeff Ronan.
We're looking forward to that.
So we got a couple shows coming up. So we're going to be practicing and putting a set list together, and we are also moving into. We keep talking about this, but we're getting some recording headway.
We took a big step today.
Yeah.
There was a deadline today for Music NL's artist development program.
So it was a grant. We put a grant application in today for recording. Yeah. So that was
a step in the right direction. And it just sometimes putting those applications together helps you map out what the next step will be, because we've done a bunch. We've got the scratch tracks all laid down, and right now we need to lay, what is it called? What do you call that part?
So the tracking would be next, where we would do.
That's it. So we're tracking the songs, and then we've got ideas for videos. I've actually got a bunch of B-roll and stuff already shot for a lot of the songs, and it's just been kind of sitting on my computer. So I think part of me is afraid to finish things, because I need to have something to go to next for my mental health. I need a next project. So I don't like endings, and that's, I wouldn't have normally said I'm good at polishing things, but as long as I have another project to go to, I'm pretty good at putting a little bow on stuff and walking away from it. So I feel like the next thing for us is to find some way to announce that we're looking for songwriters. A couple of different things. And I'm going to try it a little bit differently this time, because we used to do the Mulberry Creek Hour, and we loved it. But the station that we did that for, I don't know if they're going to exist anymore. And you reached out to them. I don't know if they're going to find funding and go with just volunteers, or if they're going to be rescued, or what's going to happen to CHMR. But we are in the process of finding places to record where we can have musicians come in, talk to us about their process, and actually play an acoustic song for us. And
so songwriter circles are next on the list.
Musicians on the podcast is next. So hopefully,
I see what you mean.
Ideally, and I don't know if we can turn this into a promo. Ideally, hi, I'm Vicki Morgan, and I'm from Mulberry Creek.
And I'm Josh Morgan, also from Mulberry Creek.
So we are looking for songwriters to do a couple of different things. We are looking for songwriters who would be willing to come on the podcast and talk to us about your art and maybe sing us an acoustic song and play for us. And then from that whole pile of people that we're going to have on the podcast, we are organizing some songwriters circles that are going to happen around the province. So not just in St. John's, but in neighboring communities, all across the province. And so it can be from anywhere. So you can tune in, you can be a guest from anywhere in the province, and we will be traveling to other places in the province to do songwriter sessions. So we are on the hunt for talented songwriters. Yeah. Ideally, you can accompany yourself. So hopefully you don't have to have somebody that can play the songs for you, because it takes up space on the stage. That's the big issue. For the podcast, I don't care how many people you have to accompany you, but for the shows, if you have to have somebody there to play the instrument for you, that takes away a seat from a songwriter, which cuts down on how many people are playing. It's
I think that's kind of understood.
But it's not impossible. It's just ideal if you can play your own, accompany yourself.
I think that's pretty understood with songwriter circles, that people are going to accompany themselves and play their song. I think that's standard. I'm just saying that what you're saying isn't crazy. Isn't a crazy idea.
Now I'm crazy. So let's back up a little bit. The reason I'm qualifying that is because I do know a bunch of musicians who don't know how to play instruments and will say to me, "Can I bring my partner who plays whatever for me?" And so ideally, we are looking for songwriters who can accompany themselves. And the reason I'm saying that specifically is because we have had a few people get in touch who can't accompany themselves. Yeah. So not to exclude, but you would probably be further down the list. So pick up a guitar. You don't need to be the next Jimi Hendrix. Just strum a chord, sing your line, strum the next chord. It does not need to be too fancy, but ideally you can accompany yourself. I don't care if it's a ukulele. I don't care. But so the one thing I have seen that wouldn't be ideal is somebody who just wrote a poem. I don't want poems.
So
music.
So
it
your
has
song
to be lyrical.
Needs to have some kind of a melody.
There has to be a melody, and ideally, a ukulele only has 4 little plastic strings. Figure out a couple of chords, figure out a melody, and we'll figure it out. And here's the great thing about that. Do you know who has an album out of original songs that I just found out about last week?
Who's that?
Rex Gowdy.
So
I love Rex Gowdy so much.
For our American listeners,
they know who Rex Gowdy is.
But Canadian Idol, is in Canada, and they might not have
if
seen
you've
us.
been living under a rock and you don't know who Rex Gowdy is, he was on Canadian Idol many, many years ago. I think it's 2005, just before we met, right? And so Rex Gowdy was 19 years old, and he was just a little young kid from the Bay, and my God, what a gem he was. The country fell in love with him. And so he and Melissa O'Neill went to the finals. They were the number 1 and number 2. And then it was a voting thing where, people had to call in and vote for him. And I don't know. I don't remember. I seem to remember something about the phone lines. You couldn't get in from Newfoundland or something like that. There was something there that we're not totally sure on the results, but I'm sure Rex Gowdy would say, no, Melissa definitely won. Because at the time, that was his girlfriend. So they did a song. They did a cover of Alison. Who wrote Whiskey Lullaby?
Well, it was Brad Paisley and Alison Krauss sang it. I don't know who wrote it.
I don't know who wrote it. Yeah. So, but they did that duet, and so Rex Gowdy put out an album as part of the contract with Canadian Idol, and I think there was one after that. And then just last week, doom scrolling on YouTube at 4 a.m. It's not always 4. Sometimes it's 5 or 6, to be honest. Sometimes it's 7. But there was this article that's a piece that somebody had done on the local TV news about him. It was a where are they now kind of thing. And there he was on my screen. And I was like, oh. And it was like the universe or the algorithm delivered it to me. And it was Rex Gowdy. And then they had him playing a little snippet of an original song. And so I've never met him in my life, but it is definitely on my bucket list. But he has an album out of original songs. And so I found him and I sent a message to him and I said, this is not the best way to reach out to somebody. It might be what went wrong. But I sent a message and I said, hey, I just saw you on NTV and I heard you got an album of original songs out. Would you like to do a songwriter session with me? I haven't heard your album yet, but I'm sure it's great.
It's great. Yeah, I'm sure it's great.
So any reasonable person seeing that is going to go, oh, right, swipe left. But I also tacked on there because he has a young son, and I said, if you want, we can do like a family-friendly session where the kids can come.
Which is a great idea.
We have a 12-year-old and 15-year-old, and I don't know if they want to go see their parents play, but I love when the boys come to our shows. They usually sit in the back and post Snapchats and stories on their Snapchat about ridiculous things that they're seeing at the show. They're not necessarily in the back clapping along or like singing along, but it's immersive. So it's getting in. Like they are very aware, and sometimes they'll sing along with songs that I didn't even know they knew. So, or they'll say, "Hey, Mom's got a song like that." So, but I did, because I'm playing in songwriter circles, exactly the same thing that I tell people about documentary films and podcasting and radio shows, and writing articles for any newspaper. It gives you a ticket to say, here you go. Hey, I normally couldn't approach you in public, but could I have you on my podcast and ask you questions that, everybody's wondering about, or at least I'm wondering about?
Yeah.
So fingers crossed if Rex Gowdy comes to a songwriter session.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's exciting.
I got turned down by a bunch of people, I'll tell you. Let's be real.
But you had a bunch of people say they would love to do it.
There was a lot of great responses, and there was also a few devastating, like, oh my God, really? And no, I did not ask Alan. I'll just put that out there. Alan is not one of the people that said no because I didn't ask him. So I figured it out, people. I'm evolving. But anyway, that's the next project. That is one of the next projects, is the songwriter sessions, because we're working on the whole province right now. We've got about 7 locations in St. John's. So okay, so
we got lots of options.
So for your editing, put a little mark right here. Remember on the comeback?
Yeah.
If you haven't watched it, go watch the comeback. Jane cut right here. Valerie Cherry said that in that show.
Yeah.
Again, if you haven't seen the show, that was a ridiculous reference. So start from here. Hi, I'm Vicki Morgan from Mulberry Creek.
And I'm Josh Morgan.
We are currently looking for songwriters who would like to be a guest on our podcast, Are You Mad at Me? And here's the best part. There's some paid gigs. We're looking for songwriters to participate in some songwriter circles. I'll be hosting. It would really, really be great if you knew one of my songs. Like if you could tell me, I really like this song you've done, or I like that episode of the podcast where you talked about blah, blah, blah. Because otherwise, why would you come on our podcast? If you haven't bought in yourself.
Get some skin in the game.
Exactly. So ideally, and I'm going to be really upfront with people when they come on the podcast, I do want you to share, like take a selfie when you're doing your interview, post on your social medias, share it with your groups, because I am not an event planner. I cannot guarantee that we're going to have 1,000 people show up and be beating the door down to get in. It's a collaborative thing. You have to promote it to your own networks. I'll promote it to mine. I will have people there, but you're going to need to bring your people too.
Yeah, it's really nice when we have guests that buy in and
understand the assignment,
share the posts, and make their own on posts on their own social media pages. That's a lot of fun. Yeah.
So if you're listening to the podcast and you know of a friend who might be interested in being a songwriter on one of the songwriter circles, or
being on the podcast,
or coming on the podcast, because that helps us promote. So when someone comes on the podcast and we have a funny moment or a little piece of their song, we can use that as a clip for social media, which helps us promote the event and helps us promote how wonderful you are. So
everybody gets promotion.
If you're a songwriter in the province right now, get in touch. If you have a friend who's a songwriter, please send them the podcast or just send them the clips that we're going to do of this, and we will have lots of fun. It's going to be awesome. How do you like my FM voice? I'm really sliding into it.
You're really making it work like you're talking on the radio.
I know. So
is podcast replacing the radio?
I don't know about that. I do want to go back to something we were talking about earlier, because I think it can be made into different other content. When we come down into our studio, these microphones are called SM58s. These are stage microphones. They make our voices sound very warm and very cozy. They're the ones that digitize your voice are called dynamic microphones. No, these are dynamic.
These are dynamic microphones, and
what are the other ones called?
there's like USB microphones that a lot of people use for podcasting.
What
are you
thinking
called? Like cardio?
No, there's a name for it. It's the way the signal is processed.
Condenser microphones?
Condenser mics. So that's very digitized. These mics, a lot of the sound is basically from the resonance in the actual device itself. SM58s are what everybody uses on stage. I'm not going to do it, but I could slam this right there right now. Wouldn't hurt it. They're basically tough. Indestructible. So we use SM58s for this, and they're just handhelds. We do have the big chunky podcast microphones that are condenser mics, and they sound pretty good too. So XLR cables come out of our SM58s.
Yep.
That's this little connection right here. It's got a little button that you press on, it locks it in. So when you're swinging it around and doing crazy stuff. Okay, so we use SM58s, and they go into. They do not need any. You don't need any of this fancy equipment. You can have a.
Handheld recorder.
You can use a handheld recorder. You can use your phone. It's not ideal. I'll tell you that.
The phone microphones aren't great, and they do a lot of processing within the phone that it makes it compresses the audio. And
you can get away with it. It's absolute, but like invest in yourself. So we're using a DSLR camera, and the limit on the recording time is 29 minutes. That's why Josh hops up every now and then.
I was just thinking about that earlier because the Canon DSLRs they have a limit of 30 minutes for video, and then you have to restart the video. It won't just keep running for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, because it's not technically classified as a video camera.
Is that what would make it a video camera if it went over 29?
So that's the way they make it a little bit cheaper and make it so it's kind of a pain when we're doing something like this where I have to start it over, but it makes that's how they qualify it as it's a photo camera. It's not a video camera.
I think it's like having a drone that's like 269 grams or something. It's just underneath the limit has to be registered. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to give you a tutorial on podcasting in case anybody's wondering, because we get these questions a lot, and I'm going to start sending people just go listen to the podcast, and there's all the instructions. Okay, so this thing is called an H4n Pro, and I thought these were just a thing that I found that nobody knew about until I went to the Women's Film Festival here in St. John's about 10 years ago, and there was a lady there who was winning awards with her documentaries that she did over in like the Middle East. It was, I can't remember, My Name is Something. I can't remember the name of the documentary, but she had followed this woman through like the military, like, the young girls are like in the military when they're like 14. She followed this family for like a couple of months, and it was wild that she even got access to the young girl. But she said that day she was using a DSLR camera and a handheld recorder, an H4n recorder.
It makes for a super small kit. Like if you just
it's the sound quality and it's the video quality too.
But I mean it's you have this, maybe a microphone or two and a camera, and that's a very small backpack of stuff that you can carry anywhere. Get a little extendable tripod, and you can really do a lot of stuff with a little amount of gear.
We have very different opinions about gear.
That's a fact, though. You're just saying that the lady did a documentary with just a little bit of stuff. She did, but then you said,
okay. So let's start with the H4n, because on top of this is the there's onboard microphones. So I've put these in shows like where I was trying to capture a speaker and I wanted some audience. So like when I did a documentary down in Maine about gun safety, it was called A Civil Conversation About Guns. I had one pointed at the presenter and I had one pointed at the rest of the room, so that it actually captured all the conversations that were happening and very clear. So like if you go to a conference or any sort of stuff, like this is so good at picking up room sound, or you can just talk into it. Or if you want to be really fancy, there's XLR inputs on the bottom, or quarter inch.
So you can connect microphones like these.
So you can connect microphones into it. And it's very, very simple to use. Lots of tutorials online. But you can get one of these for like $20 for the month to rent. You can buy it for a couple $100, but you can rent these for $20. So if you're interested in doing a podcast and you just want to try it out and maybe try a few episodes, I'd recommend this H4. Now, this is not even the newer model. There's like an H4.6. There's an H6 now. There's
a bunch of different versions.
It started with H1s and H2s. I had like a little digital, back in the day, way, way, way back when I was interviewing hockey players, I had like a little digital recorder, and that was a setup.
Like with a tape?
Yes. It
was like a micro tape.
There was both.
Recorder.
I had micro tapes and I also had a digital one, but that was a concoction because that was back in the days of landlines. And I remember interviewing Craig, Craig Mills. It was just before, what do you call it? Training, like the season. What's it called? Training camp. Oh my God. I was interviewing him just before he came to training camp because I was sending an article to a local newspaper as a sample, which I didn't realize you could do until I did it. So during that interview, I wanted to record what he said because I wanted to make sure I quoted him exactly right. And so I had him on a landline, and at the other side of the house, I had an extension with the recorder tucked into, like, taped to the earpiece.
Nice.
It was a concoction. Like, it was a whole thing. But it worked, and I got my story, and it was the whole thing. But nice. So it started out, so that was back in the days. I think I graduated to like an H1. These are made by Zoom. They're not sponsored, but hopefully they will be one of these days because it's a great company. And I don't know if it's the same company that does your guitar pedal or the Zoom meeting.
Same as the one that do the guitar pedal, different from the Zoom video.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, your recorder. So you can just do a podcast with one of those recorders if you want. Or,
yeah, and we've done the earlier in this season when we talked to Nancy Kinney and Annie Valentina, we used that. We had that connected to two XLR.
And they just held the microphones.
SM58s.
Yeah.
It was just like
this. So it
this.
doesn't need to look like the big metal arms holding the microphone in front of your face with the screen, with the what do you call that?
Yeah, like the pop filter.
The pop filter. Yeah. I know these things, I swear. You don't need the whole outfit. Like you can start off with just a handheld recorder. You can use these microphones. These are called XLR cables, or you can have 1/4-inch cables, or you can have cables that go directly into your computer. So there's a point in the process where I get lost. And so I'm good at capturing. I'm good at, there's a headphone jack on this, and you really should listen to it, hold it, get a 10 seconds of room noise. Because if there's mistakes later on, you can cover it up with the room noise. That's a whole other editing session. But make sure when you're, put on your headphones, listen to what's going on in the room, what you're actually recording, because there could be an air conditioner, or you could be sitting next to a fridge or whatever. So you're going to need room noise, and make sure as little as possible room noise.
Have everybody that's talking talk for a minute, so you can hear. Listen on headphones and do a test, and because if it might sound good in the room, but if they're way too close to the mic, then you're peaking and it sounds terrible.
Scratching jewelry the whole time,
or too far away and you can't hear. Yeah.
I used to use a lot of lapel mics, and so a lot of times if somebody was touching or moving something on themselves, that would be brutal background noise. It was horrible. So your next level is you can record on your phone. The next step up would be a handheld recorder, and it does not need to be one of these. You can go to a thrift store, and I'm sure you'll find a recorder there. And then the next step after that would be microphones plugged into a recorder. And then Josh has this fancy get up where our mics go into what is the red thing called?
So that's an interface.
Is it?
Yep.
Oh, I thought it was, what's a cloud lifter then?
So from this point, the microphones are XLR. You can't plug an XLR into your computer because computers don't have that. So you have an interface, which is a little box that the microphones plug into. And I have a very itchy nose.
It means you're going to get in a fight.
Is it? So that has a USB connection that goes to your computer, and then you use Audacity or Audition or
something
GarageBand or some kind of software in your computer that can connect with your interface through the USB.
So this H4n also is an interface. So you can plug your microphones into it, or you can just record straight into it. And these actually turn. You can do 90 degrees right in front of it, or 120 degrees. But this has an output that'll go right into your computer. So this can be an interface.
That's also a USB interface.
So it depends on how many levels of fancy you want to have. So my career, my background has been in capturing interviews, and the sound has usually been good. And then I graduated to cameras. I started off doing newspaper interviews. Yeah. So back in high school. And I just wanted to talk to my friends who were musicians because they were super cute and I had crushes on them, and it was a great chance. Again, going back to high school, it was a chance to talk to Chris and Joe and say, hey, can I come listen to your band? And they were like, sure. And how about you take a demo tape, and that'll come into play 30 years later. But it was a chance to get in places that I wouldn't be at Chris Collingwood's house listening to his band otherwise.
Yeah.
I mean, probably, I don't know, maybe I would have, but at the time it was an in.
A good in, yeah.
Yes, and it was legitimate, and I did an article. It's still upstairs in a bin, the newspaper article that I wrote, and but it's an in for you. So here's a quick tutorial of what you actually need to do podcasts. So you capture the audio. You can have a podcast with just yourself. It does not need to be any particular length of time. It can be 5 minutes, it can be 10 minutes, it can be 3 hours, whatever you want. And ideally, it's not required to have it on a certain schedule. The consistency helps with establishing a relationship with your listeners. So if they know it's going to come on Wednesday mornings, they know to tune into it, and you start building these. It's a community that you kind of start building, and they get used to it, and it's consistent. If they don't know when it's coming on, you'll still get listeners, but it's just a little tiny bit harder. So if you can commit, and a lot of podcasts stop after, I think it's not very many make it to 9 episodes, or is it 3?
I thought it was 3. Yeah,
not many make it.
That seems like a very low number, but
well, that's kind of the idea. It's a lot of work, and then a lot of people run out of steam. Possibly because they don't have a lot of listeners, or they expected to get sponsors right out of the gate, or whatever. So it is kind of a long game. But if you've tried a podcast in the past, then you have that groundwork, and it's a great chance to start another one. So the gear that you need: handheld recorder, some way, or a phone.
Some way to capture the audio.
Some way to capture the audio, and then ideally some way to edit the audio. And you don't need to edit. You can do straight to video or straight to straight to the podcast if you want to. So that's called shoot to edit, or shoot to, but there's a word for that. I think it's called shoot to edit, where you're not actually going to edit. It's just straight. This is exactly what I'm going to put on, just like that. So when you figure out the audio files, you can put on like a little bit of music. Do not use other people's music. It's not okay. You're not allowed. It is breaking a whole bunch of copyright rules and laws, and you can get in a lot of trouble for that. There's a lot of free stuff, but you need to be really careful about using royalty-free music.
Yeah.
Or play your own. Ours is from one of our own songs.
Just make something up.
Just a pop quiz. Do you think people know that that's one of our songs that is the opening sound on our podcast?
I'd say a few people do.
What song is it from?
It's Garden Party.
It's the instrumental part of Garden Party. That's Kendall Carson and Corey Tetford and Chris LeDrew.
And you?
No, I'm not playing any music on that.
You had some guitar on that, didn't you? On that part?
No,
okay.
I was not. I did not do any instrumental stuff on my first album. So that's one of the things that we're going to do differently.
On half of it, you did. You were all
the ones that Sean Panting produced. Yeah. But this album coming up will be
It's going to be all us.
It's going to be all us on all the instruments and vocals. And we might have people come in as session musicians to add to it, but it's going to be more us and more... Like the songs were authentically us, but it wasn't quite what we would have produced.
It was our first try.
It was great. I mean, it's a good bragging
CD.
thing to say, oh yeah, I did an album with whatever, but it wasn't realistic because we don't like hang out or anything, or like it was during the pandemic. It was all completely like electronic email and transfers.
We weren't in the studio. We were doing it here in our basement.
Close. Not even close.
In our own studio.
And that's how we ended up with a lot of the gear too for recording. So that's why we're able to do a lot of the groundwork for an album and then pass it on to the professionals to do the mastering part and all that stuff. So, we've streamlined a lot of stuff. I saw a clip on, I don't know if it was TikTok or Instagram today, and I couldn't identify the lady who was speaking. I guess she's an influencer of some kind, but she was talking about how now she was taking a religious slant. I do not mean to promote that at all. But she was like, when you ask God for cake, which I definitely identify with. I love cake. And she said sometimes God will give you eggs and flour in a bowl and mixing thing to whatever and all the ingredients and even an oven, and then you're there complaining about, but I asked for cake, and God's like, well, wouldn't you love to learn how to make a cake yourself? And so you've had the thing, and instead of learning how to make a cake, you're sitting there complaining that you weren't given cake when you actually have all the tools at your fingertips. And that's where I am today. Like the resources are here. We have the skills between both of us. We have all the skills. Okay, back to podcasting.
So once you're done, you got your audio recorded, you got it captured, you've got it on your computer, you've edited or not, whatever. Then you have to find a place to put it. So tell me about
putting it on your computer. So I know the H4Ns have a memory card.
Yeah.
The phone, so you want it somewhere that you can edit. And you can get editors most of them are free.
Audacity is
free. On your phone or on your computer.
So you can Google online audio editors, and there's websites that you can go to where you just upload your file and edit something in the website and then export it as a wave, and they're pretty good. They're not bad.
The extent of my technical knowledge for that was an audio wave looks like this. It's like all these bips and blops.
Peaks and valleys.
Peaks and valleys.
Yep.
And so if there's a big long pause, there'll be nothing on the line, right? And then when you do talk, every sound, every word that you say has a different frequency, and it responds like the capture responds. So when you're looking at that audio file and it's all laid out, you can actually see. So a lot of times, if you're recording and you say a swear word or you talk about something you didn't mean to talk about, then you leave a gap so when you go back and edit, there's my gap, and I'm going to go back and listen at that point. So you don't have to listen to the whole podcast to find it. That's just a little, just a tip for audio. Then there's yes, you can record it and just dump that into your podcast. Or learn how to copy a little tiny bit out and take a little bit out of your
And at the very least, you're probably going to want to trim the beginning and the end to cut out.
Most likely.
A lot of times. Like a video that you do for social media, you're going to want to cut where you're walking over to the camera to turn it on.
A lot of people don't do that, and that is it's just a tiny little thing. I don't want to see your arm reaching for the camera. It takes a second. It's in your photo app on your phone where you took the video. It's so easy to edit.
Look for the trim.
It just a little tiny bit. I don't want to see your armpit. It separates. There's such polish involved, and I have seen that on national broadcasters. There was a show that goes on here in Newfoundland where this guy, it's a million dollar company, and he was shooting videos where he was like, there was a part where he was like, you could see his armpit. Anyway, just saying, lots of fancy people still do that, but it's just a little tiny thing to separate you. It's a little tiny bit of polish. Okay. After we record our podcast.
Yep.
So we record so right now I'm looking at a computer screen. Josh is recording into Adobe Audition.
Yeah. I use Audition because it's very, very similar to Audacity, which is free. We do pay for Adobe products because we use it for...
But it has a whole suite.
We use
so
it
we use the
video
graphic design
editing
stuff and video and all that stuff. So
stuff.
right now I'm looking at over there. I can see my voice and I can tell sometimes I'm talking a lot and Josh isn't talking a lot. We've been balancing that out a lot lately too.
Yeah.
So from here, when we record the audio, I pass it off to Josh. Now then Josh does some wizardry and he is the person who puts together the actual file that goes to the podcast feed. Now, this is where we should write a book about this. Like this is the baseline, or this is the basis. There we go. That's the right word for a book, like a mini book on podcasting, because this is where I don't know anymore. Like the language, again, like with self-publishing, there's these little barriers or like obstacles that people go, okay, nope, not signing that agreement on KDP, or nope, not putting my bank information in, or what's an ISBN? Those are things that keep you from publishing your book. And so that's why we published How to Be a Famous Sexy Writer and the Bare Bones Guides, which are available on Amazon and all of the other platforms all around the world. So for podcasting, the RSS, and there's other language that's used around podcasting websites. The RSS feed is essentially, you correct me if I'm wrong, it's essentially you put your file somewhere. There has to be a base. So there's lots of places that will let you upload your podcast, but it doesn't store them. You don't have storage space. So you have to have a home for the files. And I don't know, there's podcasting hosting, and Josh will tell you more about that in a second. But from there's an RSS feed that basically tells all these other websites, there's a new podcast posted, and it will feed it to those other websites for you. You put in the information that you want to show up, like the name of the podcast, any guests and information you want to put on, and a thumbnail, which you have to have a thumbnail for your podcast. That's very important. It's got there's certain measurements. It's got to be like...
It's different for different
There's different
sites.
things for different places.
But
so
there's thumbnails for each episode, and then there's podcast artwork for the podcast as a whole.
And you can use the same thumbnail for every single episode if you want. Yeah. But then the technical stuff was like the bit rate and the normalizing the audio file, and that's where my brain went, okay, too much. Because frankly, it takes a lot to come up with stuff to say and to be effervescent and have such a glowing, delightful personality.
Yeah.
That's where
what else could we expect of you?
I like sitting down here and doing the podcast, and then I get up and walk away, and then Josh is left to do the rest of it. So if you don't mind sharing with our listeners, what happens after you take the file from, we record, we hit the thing, we stop the video or stop the recording, and then what do you do after that?
So this is all of this stuff is optional. This is all just polish, really, to get down to it.
Okay.
But what I like to do is normalization and compression, which normalizing kind of equalizes the peaks and valleys a little bit.
Why?
To get them.
Why do we need that?
Because of the next step. That prepares you for the next step. But that kind of gets them all, instead of like you might have a part of the podcast where you're talking kind of quiet and then you got these little tiny peaks, and then you got where you're laughing and you know the peaks get really, so that kind of matches them up a little bit, normalizes across the whole file. And then once I have a normalized file, I'll compress it, which means it jacks up the audio, but then it gives you a limit on how high the audio. This is really boring.
No, it's not. But I'm picturing it, and so when I would edit myself, like back before you were doing editing for me, and when I was still doing documentary films on my own and things like that, when I would try to do, so if somebody was talking low, I would jack up the whole audio file, and then the loud parts would be really loud, and so you don't want it to peak, and peaking means, I don't want to do an example.
So that's what compression does. It says, like, say if your limit is minus 12 dB decibels, that doesn't matter, but you set a limit, and once the audio gets up to that limit, it backs it down a little bit. Yeah. And there's a ratio, and there's a lot of math that goes into it, but it's basically instead of just like you said, when it's quiet, you just jack it up manually. This goes across the whole file, and it says everything boost, and then when you get to this level, calm it down a little bit. So then what you end up with is, instead of like a lot of peaks and valleys, you end up with kind of a straight, depending on how much compression you put on it, sometimes it just reduces the peaks and valleys, but when you get it, kind of straight across, that means that all of the volume is going to be the same. And then sometimes if you put too much compression on it, it starts sounding all kind of digital and like a robot, and it's too much. But anyway, that's all. It's
optional stuff.
So that's what I do. I make it all kind of the same volume all the way across. So hopefully when you're listening to it, you're not like, oh Jesus, I can't. That's way too loud, or I can't hear anything, and you're turning up your phone volume. And then.
So when I was editing audio. Like I would go in and cut a piece of it to make it smaller. Like if I laughed, because I did that a lot, I would laugh too loud, and then if I didn't want to cut it out altogether,
you take out that loud
I would
part
cut it and then
drop
reduce it.
So that's essentially, instead of having to go through and do that
very labor
manually.
intensive.
Yeah,
very, very labor intensive. So what you're talking about does that in kind of like a click and an option.
When I normalize and compress, depending on the size of the file.
So you could just normalize it.
You could. But then that you still have a lot of peaks and valleys, and you have a lot of quiet stuff that it doesn't address.
Oh, okay.
So the loud stuff is still there, and the quiet stuff is still there. It just makes it a little bit easier for the compression to work. Audio engineers are probably listening, going, "That's completely wrong." But anyway, that's what I do. But so that's.
Are you mad? Are they mad at you?
Depending on the size of the file, it might take 30 seconds for all that process.
So if you don't mind leaving in the comments, do you want to hear from an audio engineer, or do you want to hear from somebody that you've been listening to our podcast now for over a year? Are you comfortable with the levels and stuff that Josh does to the sound? Are you comfortable? Do you like what we sound like?
I think our podcast sounds really good.
Would you rather listen to the gatekeepers who are like, oh, actually it's supposed to be a actually you're supposed to do this, or a person who's actually in the field doing it all the time? That's where we start. Like, this is what I learned when I did my adult education degree, my master's, was that adults teach themselves stuff all the time, and they're embarrassed to say, yeah, I'm a good at this thing, or I taught myself, because they don't have a piece of paper on the wall that says, oh, I'm an audio engineer, or I'm a whatever. Like, I'm glad I have degrees in stuff, but I can tell you, the stuff I've taught myself, I'm way better at the stuff I taught myself. But again, the hesitation, and this is one of the things they trained us to listen for when adults are in the classroom. A lot of them are bringing in all this baggage and all these preconceived ideas of, oh, I didn't graduate high school, or I never went to college before. And like, you can go in and take a trade. You can go in and do a course in tax prep, or welding, or whatever. And like, that can be a thing you make a living doing. You can change somebody's life by teaching them a new skill. And so if those teachers in those classrooms were like, oh, I don't know, I never went to college for this. Like, do you know how many musicians are out there that have never taken a lesson in their life? And they're like billionaires. I don't know about billionaires, but they're super successful because they're called to make music.
Yeah.
So if you're a person like, how do I know that you're called to make podcasts, Josh Morgan? Because you do it every week. You show up for it. And like, are we getting complaints about it? The only complaint we've ever had about sound is when we did one episode where we were playing Fortnite in the background.
Yeah. It was too confusing. Distracting.
It was distracting. I couldn't even concentrate.
And I will say too, I said that stuff was optional because this is very relaxed, and it's just recreational almost. I don't know. It's just this is just so. Hang on. Just hear me out. When we go into doing audiobooks, and we are uploading audiobooks chapter by chapter into Amazon ACX, they have regulations. So all those. There's some really specific specifications for that. So like, there's a thing where like everything's going, when you compress it, everything's kind of flat across the top. The difference between the peaks and the valleys, there has to be like there's an average, and it's an RMS, and it's like what's
RMS?
Root mean square. It's math. It's like sound wave math. So when you do audio, so that's like, we're not gonna sell your thing for you unless it sounds really good, and it has to match up. So you put it in there to their system, and it analyzes your file and says, nope, the RMS is off,
and you got to go fix it.
The LUFS, or there's this crazy, like, it's so. And all this stuff is Googleable. Like I didn't take a class on how to do audiobooks on Amazon.
There it is. Can we put a little asterisk there where there it is? It just happened. You just said it.
I Googled it, and it took me.
How many books do you have on Amazon?
We have 3 audiobooks, right?
Is it just 3?
Yeah.
We've actually had people get in touch to compliment the quality of the audiobooks. Yeah. So as far as, I didn't go to school for it, like, no, but you did do sound engineering, and you did do like all the other stuff. Like, it's just so easy to disqualify yourself from, well, I didn't do this stuff. Like, so?
Yeah, that's fair.
Right? So Josh just reset the camera again. I guess we're going over an hour on this one.
We were coming down to do a quick podcast. It's been an hour.
But this is fascinating stuff. Like this, I think is...
I find it really fun. I really like editing audio a lot. And like...
You're really good at it.
It's a lot. Thank you. It's a lot of fun to like have the gear so we know that like when we stop talking, there's like no noise because we have the gear to...
We know the environment.
So like sometimes when we go out and record stuff in the field, it's like there's background noise, there's traffic, there's wind, there's air conditioners, there's whatever. So it's difficult. But like I find it a lot of fun to cut it and fix it and make stuff better.
You brought up another interesting point too about audiobooks, which is definitely related to self-publishing. If you're waiting for some self-publishing nuggets this week, the whole process. So let's go back to the very beginning with your audiobook. So tip number 1 is you do not want to use your paperback to read from because all the shuffling of the pages will come up in the sound. Yeah. Room noise, you want to have a dead space, which I think you need to post a video tutorial of how you made those booths that you've made for us. You can buy them for $300 on Amazon or at music stores, or you can make one for like $30 if you buy a giant Tupperware storage container and put some sound foam in it.
Yeah, so we got like an $11 bin at Costco and some $20 worth of foam that I've used for 2 bins.
And again, these are tutorials that we can post, and I think we probably should now that I think about it. So that's going on our social media calendar. But again, you can record your audiobook on a recorder just like this. If you want to learn editing, it is all Googleable. Is that a verb?
I'm using it like that.
So you can do that. Or this is a very long ad for what Josh is really good at. Josh does this stuff. You can send files electronically to Josh, and he can normalize and compress and
that's a really great thing about
package it for you so that it goes to your web. Now, we actually have produced in the past, we've produced podcasts for other people where they would send us files like Zoom interviews or whatever, and Josh would package the whole thing. I don't love to have anybody's passwords for anything, but that is something that he did for other folks in the past, where he would upload the thing. He would upload the file, create a thumbnail, cut out clips to use for promotion, and then upload it, and it would be distributed, and all the stuff would be done. And of course, did they pay for it handsomely? Of course they did, because it's a lot of work. But you can learn it all yourself. Like, these are all things that are not...
It's fun work that I like doing.
Well, it turns out that some stuff is really fun, and I'm realizing in recent days especially how much I love broadcasting. Like, and... You know, it's like it's kind of a dying industry.
You do enjoy having a microphone in front of you.
I have never met a microphone I didn't like, or a camera. Well, I mean, microphones, definitely microphones. And I'm always surprised when somebody gives me a live microphone to go on the air. It boggles my mind. But I don't know why I say that, because I don't get on there and like swear or say anything racist, or like I don't let anything slip, or I don't tell corporate secrets or anything. But I really do love it, and I think what I mean is, it's a shock that it's so easy to do the work that I love. It's like the opportunities are right there, and you don't need somebody to come knock on your door anymore and say, hey, do you want a job in radio? Or the podcasting is available to everybody. And we say to our oldest son all the time, because he goes on he keeps us updated on all the political stuff and all the news, and he's really smart, and he's got really great opinions on stuff, and he loves to talk. I don't know where he got that, but we tell him all the time, you should start a podcast. And he goes, ugh, Mom, shut up.
Yeah, I don't know why he won't.
And we tell his friends when they're over, like, can you tell Henry to start a podcast? And they're like, that'd be such a great idea. Can I be on it? Mm-hmm. So, you can't underestimate how much people love, because it's one of those things that you kind of go, no, it's not for me. I don't have the right personality for it. But if you feel like it's something you want to do, that's enough permission right there.
Yeah. Yep.
So the audiobook part of it, the requirements for an audiobook are a little bit more strict, but again, it's all learnable.
So what you were starting to say was we made a little miniature portable sound booth out of a Rubbermaid bin and some foam.
So there was dead air. There was no extra noise in the room. Yeah. Because with audiobooks, it has to be, the noise floor has to be next to zero, if not completely zero. Because in between, like if you take a breath, or you need to have like 5 seconds at the beginning and end of every single chapter. Yeah. And so if there's a bunch of noise in the background, they will send it back. There's no question about that. But your audiobooks, 90% profit. 90% of your cover price goes in your pocket. So if you can argue against that kind of money, feel free. But that's like, you can't beat that, because it's a book you've already written, and you can just have an extra market and publish it everywhere, not just on ACX. We put ours on, I think it's called Authors Republic, and it is distributed globally. So it's everywhere. And you can also there's a trick to put it on Etsy. You can put it on Etsy as a digital product. It's amazing what you can do with an audiobook. So if you're thinking about writing a book, I mean, the market is huge, and the market for eBooks is double what it is for paperbacks, and it's even bigger for audiobooks, because believe it or not, especially for children's books, like people right now are they're doing ebooks with their kids, going to bed with the iPads, which is an Apple product, but they're going to bed showing and then the audiobooks on top of that. People are having others read books to their kids, because you can sit there and scroll through the ebook while the audiobook is playing, and you get to enjoy it too. So maybe you're not a big reader. Maybe that's just
like watching a movie.
But the market for children's books right now, and new stories, and if you have a unique story about your kid needs a special diet, or you've learned how to do soy-based, or you couldn't have gluten, or your kid got bullied because they were different, or how they found their thing that they were really good at, those stories are so valuable and important to families right now. And so your community is out there waiting and manifesting you. They're begging for your stories, and you're going, I don't know. I don't really know how to write a book. I've never done it before. I wrote a book before, but I'm not professional. I don't have a certificate. These things are independent media. When we lived in the U.S., this was such a big thing, because community media is still a thing in the U.S., where there's a station in every single town covering their town council meetings and stuff. That still exists. Even in today's climate, there are still community TV stations where you can go in, do a couple of hour training course. You can borrow cameras. You can shoot your own documentaries. You can make your own shows. They can be music-based, art-based, whatever. It's community voices, and that still exists in the U.S. That has not been shut down. It still exists, and you would imagine Canada would have similar stuff. It does not. There are not community stations in Canada. I think there's two. There's one in St. Stephen, New Brunswick, that I used to work at, and there's one, I think, in BC. And I'm not sure if the BC one is still going. But there is this whole world of podcasting and blogs. Maybe newspapers and radio are going by the wayside, and TV stations are going the way to dinosaurs. But there's still podcasting. You can still share your opinions and your art and all these things very freely, and you'll find your community. Are you going to get 1 million subscribers the first day?
Also, I just want to say,
find you.
we have a video podcast, but I don't think the video shows up on Apple. So I think the people that listen to us on Apple Podcast are just getting the audio version.
Oh, right.
So but there is a video. You don't have to do a video podcast. You can just do audio and just capture the audio, edit the audio, upload the audio. Yeah. We do video because we like it for social media posts and
so
marketing.
It's also called content stacking. So if you're going to write an article, or if you're going to make a piece of content, the benefits, if you can put it on a different platform because it has a video component, like right now Substack has a video component. You can record your video directly into Substack and create a blog from it, and you can have paid subscribers, but it has a video, it has a broadcast channel now on Substack, and it is very user friendly. They are not a sponsor, but I wish they were. But it has the whole package is right there now in Substack. So what started off as kind of a haven for writers, they have a video component now where you can share. You can get on there and read a chapter of your book. And I keep meaning, that's another thing on my list. I keep meaning to go put the audiobook on there. You can just put a still picture of the cover and just have each chapter, week after week. You can. So there's so many different options, and I don't know how I'm ever bored, really, because there's so much stuff.
We have so much stuff we could do.
But it's like when you say, "Oh, when I get money again, I'm going to buy this and this and this," and then you get money and you forget what you were going to get, what you were going to buy. So it's a good idea, I think, to write the ideas down, and then when you're sitting around going, "Ugh, I have such a feeling of ennui," then that's your time to look at your list and go, you know what? Maybe I could go post that video I took of the flowers blowing in the wind. We found daffodils the other day on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
In the middle of a field of just barren mud and just winter, left over from winter. But there was these 3 daffodils blowing in the wind. And so that alone, so I usually say between 7 and 17 seconds is you can put audio over it. You can put a little caption over the screen. That's your content for that week. But anything you see around.
Yes.
And Josh did content for his website this week too.
Yeah, we did some graphic design, social media content.
And what was it?
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
It was a very silly idea I had of going around and taking pictures of things, textures when we go for walks, like rock walls and pavement and graffiti and wood grain on light poles and stuff. And I can use those in Photoshop for putting textures on graphic design stuff that I do. And just it was a very silly, here's what my wife sees when we go for walks, and it was just me zooming in on the light pole or a wall, and textures.
There's a moment of cringe, I know, when you have an idea and you go, I'd love to do blah, blah, blah. And it's a matter of handing the phone to the person that you're there with and saying, hey, I'm going to do this. Can you hold my camera while I do it?
Just stand still and try not to laugh, and then afterwards...
Cut the audio out if I'm laughing.
I'll give you credit.
But do you feel like an idiot? Of course you do. Of course you're going to feel silly. What if people drive by and see you shooting a video? Like, yeah. And again, flip the script. Maybe they're driving by going, hey, I know that guy. Is that the Piece for Daisy guy? Is that the guy from whatever? I think they're on a podcast. Do you know how many people have told us they love our podcast and they've only seen clips?
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So we'll take whatever we can get. We love the views.
Sure. We
love the shares and the likes and the comments and the updates on your life and the businesses that you're doing and the books that you're writing. I mean, it's just fantastic. So I think this is a good tutorial this week.
Yeah.
What turned into what was supposed to be a quick podcast, we were just going to take a couple minutes. I was going to do a super brief one this week. But
final thoughts about what we've talked about today. Music, podcast tutorial, social media, scheduling, marketing. Okay.
I'm going to talk about Mother's Day instead of all that stuff you just said, because I was already in my
Sounds
head
good.
when you started saying, what are you going to talk about? So Mother's Day passed this weekend, and it was a very, very difficult. It's been a hard year. It's been a hard topic for a long time, of course, because we lost Joe 13 years ago. But I will say that creative stuff saves my life every year, year after year. Having things to put my energy into, where I'm building a community, where I'm reaching out to people. And one thing that I tried this weekend was I was very sad and felt awful. And so I sent out a bunch of messages to people and said, hey, I just said nice things to people, and the onslaught of beautiful things that came back at me. But it was like the last thing that I wanted to do. It was, did I feel like reaching out to people? Of course not. But I did. And it was... You
kind of created your own encouraging, safe space.
Yeah. The momentum kind of went along with it. So like when I'd get a message back from somebody, I'd send a couple more. And I found out we caught up on a whole bunch of friendships and what people have going on in their lives. Lots of coffee dates booked and lots of ideas. But I felt better because there was a whole lot of other people out there feeling just as bad because their mom had passed away, whether it was less in the past year or some were 5 and 10 and 30 years out. Lots of people missing their moms. Lots of people have felt bad. That's another business idea for really messed up Mother's Day and Father's Day cards. What you wish was available out there in a card in the Walmart aisle, because lots of our families don't really fit the mold of what's in those cards. So just a shout out to anybody that had a rough weekend. And if you're looking to make next year's better, creative stuff, start writing stuff down. Buy the paintbrush, buy the canvas, buy the yarn, buy the crochet needle. Like, get the stuff, get your hands busy, because it burns off so much anxiety and so much negative nervous energy that it's a lifesaver, and I'm really grateful for it. And so I'm grateful to everybody for listening and knowing that we're going to come back to a podcast every week and connect with all these wonderful people. And
yeah, cool. Well, that's it for episode 7.
Oh, did you have final thoughts?
I didn't. We did
Are
great.
You serious?
Yeah, no, that was it. Just checking in with you.
Did I talk too long?
No, it was perfect.
Are you mad at me?
Maybe.
Now, see, there's a peak. You got to take that out.
I'll fix it.
All right. This is Are You Mad at Me? I am Vicki Morgan.
I'm Josh Morgan.
Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.
See ya.